right, I call this meeting to order. The meeting of the Londonderry School Board will be held on Tuesday, September 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at Londonderry High School, 295 Mammoth Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire, in the LHS cafeteria. The meeting will also be broadcast on local cable access channel 21 as well as the district's YouTube channel. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move into our consent agenda tonight, I would like to give the floor to Jason Parent and a few of our teachers from the high school.
Thank you. Londonderry High School is grieving the loss of a beloved English teacher, Miss Corrine Murphy. She had taught English with us for over a decade, was a tremendous coach, advisor, very well respected. Our colleagues are here this evening to share a few remarks to honor her, and they are Susan Wakeland, Peter Willis, and Paula Bartlett, before we would ask for a moment of silence following that.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you to the board and to the district for this opportunity. Last Thursday, we lost a very special member of our Lancer community. Corrine Murphy battled sarcoma cancer for years, enduring countless surgeries and dozens of chemo and radiation treatments. But she never faltered. She never gave up. She never let it take her spirit or her fire to pursue life and all of its joy.
Corrine was a daughter, sister, and aunt. Corrine was a teacher and colleague. Corrine was an investor and coach. Corrine was a great hard-working mother. Corrine was a warrior. Corrine was a friend.
She made others around her know they were valued and that they mattered. Her courage inspired others to face life on life's terms. Each person mattered and could make a difference in her eyes. She taught us what it means to be human. She taught us how to foster relationships with others. She taught us the value of time. She taught us to be dynamic, loving, and funny. She taught us to live life for each and every moment. She taught us what loving unconditionally fully meant, truly meant. Most importantly, she taught us what not giving up clearly looked like.
Corrine was loved by so many, but no one loved her more than her girl, Maya. Corrine fought for Maya with every fiber of her being from the moment she was born. She raised so much awareness for Deep 15 and became a fierce advocate for not just Maya, but for so many others. Even despite the physical pain these past few years, Corrine never stopped trying to give her girl the memories and experiences that will last a lifetime. In closing, perhaps her greatest lessons were always in her hashtags. For those of you that followed her on her journey, know that her repeated words were her mantra.
Time is the greatest gift.
Hashtag hope is an anchor.
Hashtag always.
Hashtag memories over things.
Hashtag people need people.
We miss our dear friend Corrine and the lessons she inspired every single day. Please keep her family and her daughter Maya in your thoughts and prayers.
At this time, we'd like to ask if you could stand and observe an extended moment of silence for Corrine Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will move into our consent agenda. Upcoming meetings are September 20th will be a regular meeting of the school board at 7 p.m. in the LHS cafeteria. October 4th will be a regular meeting of the school board at 7 p.m. in the LHS cafeteria. October 18th will be a regular meeting at 7 p.m. in the LHS cafeteria, and November 1st will be a regular meeting also at 7 p.m. in the LHS cafeteria. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved by Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So this, and any opposed? All right, so this motion passes 4-0. Okay. So we do not yet have a student council liaison or a teacher liaison, so I will start with school board liaisons, and we'll start to my left with Bob.
Thank you, Amy. I just have a couple of quick things. I attended the council meeting last week. The water ban is still in phase 2, which is twice a week, odds and evens. And the council reviewed the Old Home Day parade by the town manager, I should say, did a presentation, a couple of minor things that they are dealing with on their end. But all in all, I would like to extend as well, as we all were able to march in the parade and attend the festivities for the day, that Katie Sullivan and Kirby Brown and their staff did a phenomenal job with what we were told over the 4 days was 30,000 people attended the different events all total at the end of the 4 days. And that, so I'd just like to thank all of the community members that helped, as well as Katie and her staff. So that was a good time by all. Just to update the board, I had spoke a little bit over the past month, trying to get a meeting up at the state level with representatives, Department of Ed, Finance, to attend a meeting with myself and another board member, which is going to be Amanda, to do with special ed funding. So I was able to finally get a meeting for September 27th with about 6 or 7 representatives from the Department of Ed, Finance, to get an open dialogue. We see the increased cost in education, buildings, special education. What we're going to bring to them is, and Lisa was nice enough to do a formula of what we've spent in special education program over the last 3 to 4 years, and just see what they can do to hopefully assist all school districts in the state of New Hampshire. We're going to go in there with an open mind that this is for the education, public school education of New Hampshire. And what can we do to offset some of our taxpayers' grief, per se, and some of the funding. We can control the education funding through state taxes and property taxes. We can control most of our buildings, as you know, and most people know our buildings are some 70, 80 years old. But when it comes to special education, there's so many unknowns for every school district in the whole entire state. So let's start a conversation to see if there is possibly some more ways of funding our special education programs, statewide districts, to save some of that burden for our taxpayers. It's very difficult for us up here to do what we're supposed to do when every time we turn around there's extra costs for this, extra costs for this. We're talking about trying to get our buildings up to the 21st century moving forward that are 60, 70, 80 years old, and yet the first thing is the cost and what we can do. So we're also going to address building aid. These are the 2 big topics in the state level for public education. So we figured if we can get some open dialogue up there with our superintendent, a business agent, pupil services, a couple of board members, and 5 or 6 representatives from the state on both sides, we can engage and see what we can do funding-wise. So I'm excited. That meeting again is going to be September 27th at 10 o'clock at the state level. I'll keep you as updated at the next meeting, what room in that, and do a follow-up to the board after that. So I'm excited about it. I've been working on it for 2 or 3 months, and I think Amanda's background with special education will be key for some key questions, as well as Kim and Mr. Black attending that meeting. So I just wanted to update you on that. And additionally, I just wanted to bring up one thing and see if the board is good with this while I've got the floor a little bit. I was wondering if we could get somebody from the School Board Association to come in and do a refresher on non-public 91A, just to come in and do a 15, 20-minute. We did it about 3 years ago, I think it was. Were you on the board then, Amy?
I don't ever recall.
But they have people that will come into our meeting, and they can go over what you can do, what you can't do, and what should be done. Just as a refresher, where a lot of new board members, a lot of new administrators, and that'll help us moving forward, and just have them come in and give us a presentation of the do's and don'ts for non-public and what falls under that 91A and that. So I just thought it would be nice to bring them in and do a little refresher for our district and that. So figured I'd run that by you.
I don't see the harm. I don't see the harm in that. Yeah, that's great.
You like that?
Yeah, you
Okay.
don't mind reaching out?
I can do that, sure. Yep, and see if they can make it either the next meeting or October 4th.
I would say probably not the 20th,
Okay.
because we have kindergarten and we have the presentation
Okay,
for
that's right, a
kindergarten.
presentation. So the 4th?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
thank you.
And just to go off that, Bob, the School Board Association also runs training for board members, and one of their trainings is on
right.
non-public. So if any of the board members have looked on the School Board Association, you can also take their trainings, and one of them is non-public.
Yep.
So
Great.
it's always good to be refreshed on what they're offering. They usually offer a couple webinars and trainings a month.
Yep, great.
Am I up? Yeah. I know Amity will talk more about this, the Communications Committee, but we met a little under 2 weeks ago, and I just wanted to thank Amity and the committee for working hard. Seems like the meetings are very smooth and quick, but we get a ton done, and that's exactly how you want those meetings to go. So I just wanted to thank her and everyone for improving the communication within the district. But I know she'll talk more about that when she's up.
We have a big kindergarten presentation coming up at our next meeting, so I don't want to give away too many details, but we have been working hard on wrapping up our presentations and filming those, and we will have a lot to say next time on that.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, and then no updates from me. All right, so on to announcements and presentations, and I'm really excited to turn it over to our principals to hear about school opening.
Good evening. Good evening from your elementary principal team. We are off and running this year as we started the second week of school today. There is nothing like the first day of school, welcoming all of our students and families back. This happens every year thanks to our collective efforts at all levels. We thank our custodians, summer help, IT, dining services, administrative assistants, and all our teachers and staff for all their efforts and time this summer preparing for the school year. Our current opening day enrollments are: South School opened up with 473 students, class size, first grade 21, second grade 22, third grade 20, fourth grade 23, and fifth grade 20. Matthew Thornton's opening enrollment with 518 students, class size, first grade 17, second grade 21, third grade 20, fourth grade 21, and fifth grade 25. North School opened with 494 students, class size, first grade 21, second grade 21, third grade 18, fourth grade 24, and fifth grade 22. And Moose Hill opened with 358 students, class size, kindergarten 254 students, and LEAP 104 students. The first few days, even weeks of school, is always focused on setting up new routines, schedules, expectations, and establishing the classroom culture. All of us have been so impressed with our students and staff settling in with these new routines and expectations. We plan to share a few glimpses into some of those routines tonight.
We appreciate the willingness of our families to follow our detailed instructions for a safe drop-off and pickup as we continue to use the pickup patrol. We've all kept the same drive-through drop-off and pickup routines this year. This summer, our staff was trained in the ALICE emergency response system and are prepared to implement these strategies if needed. We have a great relationship with the Londonderry Police Department and work together with them, as we saw last week in the situation that occurred in town. We are fortunate to have our school resource officers who have made wonderful connections with our students and keep our buildings safe. All kindergarten and elementary schools are teaching the social emotional curriculum called Choose Love. All classes begin their day with a morning meeting in which they learn strategies and tools to promote physical, mental, and emotional wellness. Each building has a building level committee and representatives to work with an elementary Choose Love team. The team's focus is to bring additional resources to our teachers, share ideas and new ways to embed the concepts into our school day, and support consistency in implementation of the curriculum across the district. We have been impressed with how many of our students returned to school this year and remembered the strategies, breaths, and poses they learned last year. We have also implemented a Little Spot of Feeling social emotional curriculum in our preschool, pre-K, and special education programs. This SEL curriculum helps students recognize their own feelings as well as the feelings of others. The curriculum also teaches students about the different emotions, facial expressions, and how to name their feelings.
Lunches are all back in the CAF this year, and students sit with their classmates. They have learned the routine of using lunch cards and how to use the serving lines. Lunch and breakfast are no longer free, so we've been helping families get the information they need to get dining accounts up and running. This year at the elementary level, breakfast is $1.75, lunch is $2.75, and a single milk purchase is 50 cents. Breakfast is purchased and eaten in the CAF before the school day is underway. Staff also spent time during workshop days getting their websites updated, and some are creating Instagram accounts to share class photos with families to give a snapshot of the good things going on in the classrooms. We all had great orientations to welcome LEAP, K, first grade, and new students. Parent information nights are coming up when parents and guardians spend time meeting teachers, visiting classrooms, and learning more about our schools.
The teachers are building a positive classroom culture through daily routines and behavioral expectations. Classrooms are returning to a sense of normalcy. They are a welcoming and safe place for our students. We continue to foster a positive and inclusive school climate. After the first week, students know the routines for arrival and dismissal via bus, drop-off, and pickup. They are learning classroom daily routines. Teachers are building positive relationships with their students and families, as well as fostering relationships among the students. Overall, our staff continue to make the school a safe, engaging, and positive learning experience focused on kindness, empathy, and encouragement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, would you like me to go first? Please. All right, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to kind of read from a script. I tend to be a little long-winded at times, so. And when we talked about the opening of the middle school, we were so excited. I had lots of items to share, but I had to narrow down my list, so here we go. I'm excited to share with you that we welcomed 896 students to the middle school with an enthusiastic start to the school year. In anticipation of a great school year filled with new and exciting learning and social opportunities, we were thrilled to see lots of smiles from our students on opening day. We did successfully navigate the first 3 days in the lunchroom, anticipating confusion with ID numbers as students would be required to use them to purchase lunch for the first time in the past 3 years. However, Mr. Sutherland and Mr. McLean and both assistant principals, with the help of our administrative assistants, created over 900 ID cards so each student had their number prior to the start of the school year. In addition, by planning extended lunch times for our sixth grade ensured that all students had plenty of time to eat. As a result, each student easily navigated the lunch lines on the first 3 days, and together with our food service staff, all students were served from one location, got their lunch, had time to talk with friends, and moved on to their afternoon classes with ease. I want to thank all of our parents for preparing your children for the morning drop-off, as all students arrived on time the first 3 days, and not one recorded tardy to school. So we're excited about that. As a result, all students, minus just a few late buses on the first day, were seated in their homeroom classes for the start of school at 7:44 a.m. Again, excellent planning and preparation on behalf of our students. Furthermore, adhering to our morning motto this year, which is rise, shine, and be on time. So, thank you to all of our parents for that. I want to applaud all of our new staff, too, for a successful start at LMS. We are so fortunate to be filled with all of our teaching positions, with a few openings still left with support staff. So LMS was in the position to open the year fully staffed, and we're very excited about that. We want to thank you to all of our personnel department for continuing to hire exceptional teaching and support staff and ensuring our students have the very best in front of them each day. So thank you to all of that work. Students can access and check out all of our clubs that's coming up soon, offered this year through the LMS Club Day, which will be coming up in just a few weeks, so please be aware of that, as your kids will be coming home with some information. And I'm very excited to share, which I will share tomorrow night with the 8th grade class parents at Parent Information Night. The 8th grade class will take part in the Washington, D.C. experience this year. Information and details will be shared with parents tomorrow night at the Parent Information Night, as I said. Thank you to all of our teachers who continue to support this incredible experience for our students, and to all of our parents for their support and feedback over the summer. I really think working together was key in getting this trip back and in place for our students this year. We do have Parent Information Nights. They are this week for grades 7 and 8, and next week for grade 6. They're from 6 to 7:30, so we're excited to see all of our parents come out on those nights. And just to close out, we are excited to welcome Scarlett Lewis this year, the founder of Choose Love Movement, and a national speaker on social emotional learning to LMS on September 15th. She will present to all of our students in an assembly format, so we're very excited to have her. And then we also want to open this up for those that are listening in our audience tonight. Please join us that night from 6 to 7:15 to hear Shannon, I think her last name is DeSellis, excuse me. She presents and works closely with Scarlett Lewis and will present specifically on middle school and how Choose Love affects, how parents can be more aware of the middle school years. We anticipate a large turnout, and this presentation is open to our community and actually all families in our district, and it is geared towards adults and parents, so I look forward to having all of you there that can make it. And then finally, thank you to the members of our school board and the school district office staff for all their continued support in ensuring a successful school opening, and that is all at the middle school. Thank you.
And like the other schools, the high school had our teaching staff and students return to beautiful buildings and grounds thanks to the efforts of Charlie Wilton, John Robinson, and their crews. This included over the summer cleaning every room in the building, preparing all of the practice and game fields for the fall season. Our 29 summer interns worked to prepare the one-to-one laptop initiative of over 350 machines that would have been on the replacement cycle, but now they're in the hands of the students, as you know, thanks to the forward thinking of our IT department and the board. So our rollout now covers freshmen, sophomores, and juniors at our school, all having a device to use in their classroom. We had productive teacher workshop days, reviewing goals and expectations. That included the development of our competency-based learning platform, ALICE training review, increase awareness in mental health, and ensuring that our students are college and career ready. Those goals are still paramount as we offer pathways for every student, and we believe the assessment suite they take, the Futures Lab, the Naviance the digital portfolio within Naviance that they put together on their own behalf will really create that pathway, whether it's college, the military, or the workforce. But our counseling staff has done a great job in working with them, and again, we've had an exciting start, an exciting first day of school. 1,384 students entered our doors. They were happy, energetic, positive, really excited to be around each other and really embrace this traditional school opening that we had. We conducted our review of the student handbook and with them. Everyone found their classes all right, and again, our students and our teaching staff were just outstanding these past couple of weeks. We held a freshman orientation and a new student orientation led by Katie Sullivan and some of our Lancers who showed our kiddos the way. A lot of parents came out walking the schedules with their students and navigating the building. We held class meetings sharing our information and expectations around competency-based education, safety, the life of a Lancer policy, promoting healthy choices, and a restorative justice model. And our senior class took their 2023 photo on the track field. We want to thank the Londonderry Fire Department for offering the ladder truck to get a great shot of the class of 23. We're excited for our athletics and co-curricular events, the band all beginning their seasons. Much of that's fully underway. At halftime of our first home game, the 180-member band and color guard will perform their show of Beatlemania. Our Londonderry High School Parent Night open house will be held Thursday, September 15th at 6 o'clock. Our first home football game is Friday the 16th versus Windham at 7 o'clock. We also have School Picture Day on the 15th. That Saturday will be a busy weekend. We're hosting the Pizza Stock music event. We've done some work with the Flood family, and that's a combined effort between Londonderry and Derry for musical performances on the town commons in Londonderry on the 17th. And finally, we will host Mac Plaque this year, the weekend of September 23rd and 24th, where we hope to take the plaque back. That's the report from the high school.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you so much.
It's all good. So one more announcement before we jump into the other part of the meeting. We're about to show a brief video, as you've seen already this summer. John Bolio and his team, they did a wonderful job. We saw a Summer Math Academy video earlier this summer. There was a kind of summer projects that happened in our buildings video, and now we have an Alice video. So on September 22nd, we are inviting any of our families who want to come to the high school gym, where our wonderful SROs and some of our emergency operations committee will kind of share the big pieces of Alice and kind of so parents can understand it better. But we made this little video to kind of help with that process. And Amity and her communications push can help kind of share this with the community so we can see some of that.
So, welcome to Alice training. Obviously, this is a topic that no one's excited about. It's a depressing topic in many ways, but I hope what you feel a couple hours from now is more empowered.
So ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. And it is a response model to a critical incident. It gives people the empowerment to participate in their own survival if they're ever encountered during a critical incident.
Over the past few decades, unfortunately, school shootings have become too common. Too many people have unfortunately lost their lives during these incidents, and a way to mitigate loss of life during a violent critical incident is to prepare the community members in the school, teachers, students, admin, to participate in their own survival.
That's why the foundation of ALICE is your situational awareness.
If there's an alert, what kind of information do we want to share? I'll ask you. Carrying a weapon, the big three would be who, what, where, right? And then we can get into specifics of clothing descriptions. Are they carrying a weapon? What kind of weapon is that, if we know what it is?
This is empowering teachers and staff members to be more proactive and not wait for that instruction that may never come. So if they have ability to get out or get out of the building, they can do so on their own without having to ask for permission. They can just go. So I think that's probably the most important thing about ALICE, is that it's a more proactive response device, sitting and waiting for us to come rescue you, which is not our main priority, but our priority is to stop the threat. ALICE training has been conducted starting in June and is going to push all the way through the end of August.
The nice thing about ALICE training is they're developmentally appropriate, and what that means is they take into account the age of the kids. So what ALICE training says for high school kids is they can be part of all the parts of ALICE training. So they can do the evacuation, the enhanced lockdown, and the counter. As the kids get younger, ALICE takes away less and less responsibilities, knowing that they may not be ready for it. So in the middle school years, they're not going to be fully responsible for the counter moves, but they certainly could distract an intruder if they do get inside the classroom, and they'll probably be more involved in setting up the enhanced barricade in their teachers' classrooms. 5th grade and under, you don't really talk about counter, so it's really just evacuation or lockdown. And the younger the kids are, the more the teacher is going to kind of be in control of the whole situation. So that's how it changes from grade to grade, which we think is a really good approach, knowing our students. So what we're doing is we're promoting it for everyone. So right now we've been pushing really hard to train all of our staff, and we think we're going to meet the threshold of having at least 75% of our staff trained by later this fall. And then once our staff are trained, we're going to start engaging with our students and our families so they understand it better. On September 22nd, 2022, we're going to have a family night to kind of go over some of these things. And then slowly over the year, we're going to train our students too. In theory, someone could opt out if they want to on the student side of things, but we really think it's a valuable training and really help them feel more prepared and empowered should anything ever happen in Londonderry School District.
So I went through the Train the Trainer in the spring, which allowed me to be a part of these trainings and get out all this information to the staff. This summer, this is my 3rd or 4th time running through this training, and I can tell you every single person walks away feeling more empowered, feeling more in control of should anything happen in their classroom or even outside their life. It doesn't have to be a violent critical incident. It's one of the terms we use through this. To be able to implement these things of situational awareness and being able to be a participant in any sort of crisis. This has been great.
I think I gained a sense of confidence about it, where like if we do some sort of training, or God forbid we have some sort of violent situation happen, I feel way more confident in knowing how to prepare my students and how to make sure that we're safe, and going through those 3 steps of evacuate, lockdown, and then counter to be able to handle that situation.
The more the scenarios rolled on, the more confident I felt like I became in communicating and making informed decisions, and sort of feeling empowered and sort of in charge, instead of like, what am I supposed to do? I'll follow the crowd. What did they tell us to do? It just felt very organically like, oh, this is real life. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to take charge. So I thought it was a great experience.
That was the simple video, and again, Amity and her communications group, we're going to push some of that out and make sure that all parents feel welcome on September 22nd to kind of delve more deeply into this. And, you know, this ALICE training is going to be a big part of our year, and, you know, we just went through a huge wave of training with our staff, and things are ongoing, and I know Bob and Amy were able to participate in some of the training, and I hope some of the messages resonate with you guys too.
Absolutely, I was very, and I will probably speak for you that I felt very grateful to be able to participate. I left feeling it was 3 hours, and I felt like as the scenarios progressed, I was really learning skills, not only learning skills, but applying them in real time. It was very helpful. I felt like I left feeling more prepared.
Yeah. Can I just?
Absolutely.
And what I find myself now is awareness. Where you're just walking around doing your thing, talking on your phone, but now when you go into a building or that, you're more aware. You tend to make yourself be more aware, which I found, you know, probably 90% of the, or 95% of the world is not aware of their surroundings and that, so it's great. Great job.
Just want to thank the LPD one more time for kind of leading us down this path. This actually began last winter, so we've been thinking about this for a long time. They've done a wonderful job.
When did you say the students will start doing the trainings?
So the EOP committee is currently kind of working on what that would look like throughout the year and how we would start to approach that. So I think they're still finalizing that, and I believe we have a meeting this week to kind of get back into some of those details. So you know, over the fall, we'll start to see a little bit more, and then it'll go deeper as the year goes along.
In some capacity, will all students K-12 be doing some trainings?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, so just want to say thank you again to our officers.
Yep.
For facilitating it, and for using your time, not only your time continuing to maintain your SRO certifications, but then for the time this summer for all of the ALICE trainings for the staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll move now into public comment. Before I accept a motion to open public comment, it's 3 minutes per person, approximately 30 minutes, and you can just come up one time, so there's no yielding your time. All right, I will accept a motion to open public comment.
So moved.
So moved by Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so this motion passes 4-0.
Good evening, everyone. Jeff Penta, 30 Holstein Ave. I just wanted to quickly to say, over the past few weeks, I participated in the walkthrough, Thursday's walkthrough, which included South School, Matthew Thornton, Moose Hill. And I just want to say, those facilities looked amazingly and immaculate. I was really proud as a Londonderry citizen to kind of see how the staff and the district really kind of came together and really ensured that students coming back to pretty much, especially in the terms of my kids, it's their first normal year due to the pandemic and so forth. So kudos to that and thank you. With that, I was definitely thrilled to see the district present a formal long-term proposal that the board will review later this evening regarding long-term facilities planning. I think that is something that has been kind of a gap, and really excited to kind of see that move forward. Just to close here, the district and this board has probably a very unique opportunity to build and design a 21st century learning community that's going to really meet the long-term needs for the next probably 10 to 20, 25 years of our community. So what you're going to be doing this evening moving forward as it relates to this facilities plan is critical for the educational needs of our community. So again, thanks again for all the work done to get the schools in a really positive place. My kids have been smiling since they started last week, still smiling. So I'm sure they'll start to cry at some point, but I'll take it. And I do look forward to seeing how this work progresses, and really excited of hearing more community involvement with it all. So thank you all.
Thank you.
That's it.
I'm gonna call it. Okay.
Move on.
I will then accept a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
So moved by Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All of those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And so this motion passes 4-0. All right. On on to, fittingly enough, the facilities master plan discussion. So I will turn it over to Mr. Clark.
So what I prepared for you all is just a conversation. So we're not making any decisions tonight, but I put a couple things together because here's what I've learned over the years. It's really hard for groups to come together starting from scratch. So I throw out a couple ideas. If you don't like those ideas, that's fine. Just be nice about it. It's okay. But over the coming months, I think we have to start to build consensus, at least over what, maybe what we tackle in the first 5 years, and maybe look a little bit longer. And to help you all build that consensus, I tried to bring a starting point to tonight. But I also tried to bring all the complexity in front of us, and there's a lot of it. So if you want me to stop at any point, just let me know and ask questions, or we can kind of wait till the end. And I'll just kind of tell you what slide I'm on when I'm going through it. But just to reiterate what Mr. Penta said, one thing I got and I always get from our building tours is what an amazing job our Buildings and Grounds department does. Our buildings are spotless. You can see it from the floor here tonight to the condition that they're in. And obviously we get that with our continued public support. We are in a good place in that there's nothing that's an imminent failure right now, and I think that's a term the architects used in the past. So it's really, really good. But I think behind all that, parts of our buildings are old. We have to get ahead of that. We have to start really thinking about what might not work in the coming years and really, really get ahead of that. So I think that's where this presentation is going. So one piece of advice I think we have right now is this is an overwhelming task. It's not all happening at once, but we have to kind of look at this over decades. I think it is possible for first the school board and then the community to really come up with a couple of focus areas over the next 5 years. Probably our most pressing things. After that, it's probably good to have a tentative focus. What would come next? And then there are things we can wait. Things that hopefully 10 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe 20 years from now we can start to address. So don't think of this process as it's all happening at once. It's all happening right now. It's not. But we have to start to map things out in a thoughtful way to get ahead of some of our issues and make sure we're ahead of them. So one way to look about it is conceptual priorities. So we put 4 together for today. We do believe right now probably some of the most pressing things are, if you went through that facilities plan, is one of the things that came up time and again was these mechanical issues. And what that means is some of our HVAC systems, some of our boilers and other systems have just gotten really old and they're past their usable life. Lisa and Alan and I, we met with Siemens today, the people who kind of have some of this information. By the end of October, they can give us a good read, probably, on the systems that we have to really worry about over the next 1 to 3 years. No one in this room wants to have a boiler break in January. That would be a very bad thing. So they're gonna, in 4 to 6 weeks from now, probably give us a good read of if there are things you need to fix because you only have 1 to 3 years left. These are probably the things that you have to start thinking about. So I think we're in a good place to kind of give the board some more details there in the coming weeks. Moose Hill always keeps coming up as the priority that I think about, and I think it was really very clear after our tour. I feel very bad that we have students that have IEPs that are 4 and 5 years old that are learning in an office space right now. I feel very bad that the library is in a staff room. I feel very bad that our reading teachers in that building are also in a staff room. We are out of permanent space in that building. We are in portables. We have a couple classrooms that are partitioned all over the place. So we have run out of space in Moose Hill, and we have to figure out a long-term plan for there. So that would be phase 1 of Moose Hill. A whole nother part of Moose Hill is what our programming looks like. I don't know what the future holds, but I think we could have a thoughtful discussion around kindergarten starting next meeting and kind of see what our level of interest is. If there is more interest out there, I think that would be phase 2. Another thing that's always out there is a district office. When this began nearly 5 years ago, the general idea was we knew the district office was not safe, or the prior version of it. If we have a lease for 10 years, that'll at least give us some breathing room to get ahead of some of our student issues. COVID, we lost a lot of time. We know that our lease ends in June of 2028, so if we want to get out of it and find a permanent space, we do have some time to get there, but that is obviously a smaller window. And then after that, I mean, I would say Londonderry High School, a lot of it's in great shape. You know, the newer wings are in very good shape. Phase 1 is different. Phase 1 is 50 years old. All of it is wood, and I think I saw firsthand from some of the Alice training, just watching the walls shake back and forth when you're tugging on the doors to simulate barricade and lockdown. You kind of really see the age of that building, and we have some issues there. So those are the first 4 priorities we look at. And again, these are all just ideas. No one needs to agree to anything tonight. Just be gentle when you say you don't like them. I think it's possible to really look at those mechanical issues, Moose Hill and District Office, in the next 5 years. Doesn't mean we solve them all, but I think if we look at them and come up with a plan, that's entirely possible. The complexity and size of the high school is huge. There's lots of components to the high school that we saw from the facilities master plan. It probably will take us 5 years to figure out what we do there. And then if that all goes well and we were able to tackle some of our biggest issues there, potentially our grades 1 through 8 schools, our other 3 elementary schools and the middle school could be something we look at after those 10 years and kind of see those priorities. So again, just a possible timeline to start thinking about how we look at these things. What we did to kind of come in tonight is we work with the architects and the Trident Group and kind of better understand these timelines. And some of this information has to be updated based on our meeting with Siemens today. So generally, if the board thought we should take on some of our HVAC or boiler issues, and we did that this March, what Siemens told us today is you have to almost plan for something 26 to 40 weeks out. So actually, it would probably take us about 1.5 years. So let's say we found a boiler that we think is going to break, and we wanted to fix it. If we got it approved in a bond this March, 1.5 years after March, it would probably be fixed. That's the general timeline. So these things are going to take a long time. So hopefully one of the themes that come up tonight is, although we have time, because there's no imminent failure, we have to start to plan these things out so we get ahead of all these timelines. If you look at Moose Hill Phase 1, that's getting out of our portables and squeeze spaces. We could be ready to use that, assuming things are approved and all that, within 18 to 24 months after bond approval. Moose Hill Phase 2, that's obviously would be adding a full-day kindergarten to it. That's actually a much bigger project. So what we were told is it would take at least 2 years and probably that summer after bond approval to be able to use it. And then the district office, assuming it's the same conception and placement as last year that we talked about, that's probably the most doable project in terms of an actual building that could be ready within 18 months of a bond being approved. So knowing all that, again, here is just a tentative outline of things of how they could play out. So let's say that the board thought that, yes, we should take on a couple of our HVAC or boiler issues or other mechanical issues. And we brought it to the voters in March, and they agreed it was a priority. That's what that check means, that they approved it. It doesn't mean that we'd be ready with those things updated by next school year, but hopefully by August of '24, 2 school years out, those updates would be done. Again, I think what I learned today from Siemens is maybe those timelines are a little longer because of all the supply chain issues that are still out there. So let's say that was our focus this year. I think one of the disappointing things I think I learned over the last couple of weeks is we are not prepared to propose or do anything for Moose Hill this March. I know that's a disappointing. I don't want to ask our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds to be squeezed into space. But over the last 5 months, we have a lot of things to do. We had to rebuild the leadership team. We had to kind of rebuild the trust of the community, get back to normal, get the school year started again. There's a lot of things we did in the last 5 months. We just couldn't handle getting a little bit deeper than Moose Hill. I think we're ready to do that now.
But we don't have enough time to go through a design build process to get accurate costs on a bond vote for this March. So that does mean that the earliest timeline for probably even addressing anything with Moose Hill would not be this March, but next March. So, I know that's disappointing to some people. So again, let's say 2 Marches from now, we put something around the phase 1 for Moose Hill and the voters approved it. That means by August of 2026, 2 years later, 2 school years later, we would be able to use that new space. So again, hopefully what the board can kind of see is we have time, but we have to start to map these things out because August of 2026 is a really long time from now. And that's a really long time to ask Moose Hill to be squeezed together. Hopefully we can make it work, but we might have to come up with some contingency plans. So this is what I kind of mean that, we have priorities in the first 5 years. We have to be thoughtful about how we tackle them. And maybe we wanted to talk about full day kindergarten the following year. That would probably take another 2 years to get approved. And, if in March of 2027, we decided to take on the district office, that most likely, that means we would have enough time to get out of the lease in the time frame that we have it for to be able to move into a permanent building. So again, we're not tied into any of this. This is just one way these things could play out based on the priorities you all choose and what you build consensus on. I just gave you another version of that on the next page, which is slide number 8. That basically maps out another version of it where, again, we can't do anything with Moose Hill this March. I know that's disappointing, but maybe next March, if the board liked the idea, we could ask for, we want to get out of our portables, we want to have permanent space enough for our current programming. That could be one ask of the voters, and you could put a second article on that, on the budget that asked, are you also interested in full day K? And the voters can tell us either way on both issues. From talking to the architects late in the day today by email, that might change some of these timelines. It might speed things up a little bit, but generally I think hopefully the one thing that kind of sets in right now for the school board is probably it won't be until August of 2026 if we decide that we want to pursue Moose Hill Phase 1, that we would get out of the problems we have right now around space. So it's going to take us a while to get there. It's going to take us many school years and lots of creative planning by Sandra and her team, and obviously Kim Spears to kind of figure that all out. So we have time, but the clock is ticking. And then again, in this model, you could still kind of look at the district office and maybe look at March of 27 of asking the voters for support there, so that we're ready to move on to a permanent building. By the time the lease is over. So again, this isn't the plan. This is a way to start to think about it, for you all to ask questions and kind of figure out how you want to start approaching these things and thinking about it long term. If you want to throw out more complexity, sorry, there is more complexity here. One thing I learned, I think, in talking to the architects and being a part of those building tours is, we definitely have delayed some of the work on our buildings for a while. We haven't had a bond since 2008, so that's 14 years. So our buildings have gotten old. Again, I think it's possible to deal with some of our most pressing mechanical issues, Moose Hill and the district office, in the next 5 years. But some of the timeline I gave you guys earlier is based on the fact that everything else kind of holds together well over the next 10 years. There are definitely a couple moments on the school tours that caused me pause. One of them was, South School is 44 years old. We have our original HVAC system in there right now. That means it's 44 years old, and the useful life was 25 to 30 years. So right now, South School has, an HVAC system that is, 14 to 19 years beyond its useful life. That makes me worried, and I think that's why those mechanical ratings came back so low for that school. And then, we were in Matthew Thornton there towards the end of the second night, and someone asked, oh, you just replaced the roof? How long is that going to last? Maybe 10 years. And I think those are the things that kind of make me worried, because the timeline I laid out for you all is based on the fact that, there's no issues at South School and Matthew Thornton for 10 years. That may not be the case. Lisa and I and Alan, we're talking to the Trident Group and the architects about that, and, there's obviously a couple strategies they recommend. We have a maintenance trust fund. One way to get ahead of that is, increase our maintenance trust fund so we can get ahead of some of these issues. So if there are other mechanical issues in years 5 to 10, we can kind of take care of them and extend the life of the buildings. It's not always going to be easy because, even though, the HVAC system's old at South School, we also learned in this process that the roof is not in great shape. It maybe can't handle a brand-new HVAC system. So there's complexity there, too. So, even though I've mapped out a fairly thorough timeline, there's lots of complexity to it and lots of moving parts, and hopefully we can come up with a thorough process but not ignore any of our biggest needs. So again, this is the discussion. So I think hopefully what we can do in the coming months is really have the school board map out what you all think the priorities should be over the next year to 5 years. That's probably the place to start. And after that first 5-year window is settled, really about thinking about that 5 to 10-year timeline and 10 plus. If there's further information you want us all to dig up, we certainly can. We have an Engage architect group. We have the Trident group. I think we have Siemens now up and running based on our conversation today, so that was really good. We're going to learn a lot more about full-day kindergarten in 2 weeks from now. Obviously, that's just a presentation, so we can learn a lot from that process. And then obviously, the school board's already said they wanted to hear from the public, so I think sometime after that, we should definitely hear from the public on all these issues. They are complex, but I think once you all have a stronger sense of where you want to go and what information you want from us, that would be a good time to invite a lot of public comment. So that's all I wanted to share tonight, but I'm happy to answer questions, and hopefully Lisa can bail me out and others in the room.
Would you mind if I started with just two questions?
Sure.
They're two technical questions. So,
Yeah.
So if in 6 months from now, in theory, from option 1, we put on a mechanical bond and it gets approved.
Yep.
Not next year, but the year after that, we would ideally fix our most pressing HVAC issues.
Yeah, so the biggest problem right now is still the supply chain stuff going on. I think before COVID, I don't think we could have obviously moved faster, but what Siemens told us today is if you wanted to fix a boiler this summer, you have to be paying for it right now. So I think if there was a bond and it did get voter approval, that would be in March, so it would take the following summer to really start that process. I mean, obviously, if there's time to do it during the school year, we would, but that would speed it up. So it would take longer than we would want. But a year and a half, yeah.
All right. This is a lot. I've been looking at the agenda for a couple of days, and just hearing it, that was a lot.
Yes, I try to make it simple.
All right, and then just so the second thing, and then I'll turn it over to the board members. So even to have the today's 1-year-old has the potential to go to full-day kindergarten.
Yes. Yeah, no, maybe. It all depends on the approach from the school board. Sorry for being gray.
I just wanted to make sure, all right, so
Yeah.
if a child was born in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, in 2021, then they would have the ability, they would probably be out of portables in those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if we go to slide 8, I believe what the architects told me late in the day today by email, and we can come back to this issue, we can come back to it, is if the school board put everything out there for Moose Hill next March, phase 1, phase 2, and there was inherently voter approval for both, potentially that phase 2 timeline could move up quicker.
Okay.
But there's a lot of moving pieces to all that. Because part of the problem with Moose Hill is a lot of the phase 2 stuff would go where the portables are right now. So we would have to have phase 1 usable to take the kids out of there to then build in that area too.
Okay.
They think it could move faster, but the more realistic way to answer your question is the kids who are not yet born might actually have full-day kindergarten.
Okay. All right. right, well, I apologize to the board for going first. I usually
No.
like to go last, but, okay.
And let them go for it, because I know all this stuff, so.
All right, you want to start? Absolutely.
I just wanted to say thank you for putting this together.
Mm-hmm.
The past couple presentations have been pretty overwhelming in terms of the level of need, and it's really helpful to see this broken down and prioritized. So just wanted to say thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a lot. I definitely want more community input on this before we move forward as a board and discuss priorities. Obviously, we can discuss what we think our priorities may be, but I think we need more input from the public to see what they also feel priorities may be. So more information, more community nights to gather more information. I know that might need to start very soon so we can move forward with this, but I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I'm in total agreement on the community input.
Yeah, sir, I agree. What I'd like to do is get a consensus, I guess, of these 4 items that Dan has laid out here tonight of mechanicals, phase 1, phase 2, district office. If you guys can think about that and we come back in 2 weeks, then we could put this out and set up a community forum going forward to get input on these projects, as even though we haven't numbered them yet and we're still getting our research done, we could start getting information from the community regarding these. If you feel as though these 4 items, like mechanical is a number 1, and that may, I like the idea of some money in the maintenance trust fund, and I don't, because that ups our budget automatically. We pay the full brunt. With a bond, we could do it maybe over 2 years and do everything. We could take the first priority, group 1, and bond it this coming March, and we may have to bond some additional the following March in whatever Siemens comes back with priority A and B. So that's something to look at. And that defrays the cost over 5 years or whatever we decide to do with the bond. Interest rates are still low on bonds. They may start creeping up with everything else that's happening. That's my other worry here with all this, is not only the cost at some point may level off. Everything is still going up at between 7.5% and 9% per year. So everything we're looking at here is probably going up as we speak, but I'm worried about the bond rates, because that can tend to throw a budget way out of whack, just like a mortgage. If you were to buy a house today and then it goes up 0.75% by the feds next month, and the rate goes from 5.5 to 6.4, you know, that's a lot of money on $1 million or $2 million. So we've got to deal with that at the same time as trying to get our staff what they need. So in phase 1, to Dan's point, we need to do phase 1 to be able to open up for phase 2 if that's a go on there. So I think this and district office, again, I would really like to know what that cost is. If the board is in an agreement and thinks we should go forward and have the contractor price it out, see where it comes in, where is it at now? If it's way out of whack, if the majority of the board doesn't want to go where the one spot is, then we need to look at something moving forward, not wait until then, because we either pursue it now where prices are where they're at and bonds are low, or we look at another option moving forward and just scrap it and say we're not going to do this, we got to look somewhere so we can start that process. What we know with that is there's no land on district that we own, so we would have to pursue a piece of land outside of what we own. So that's a cost on top of building the product and paving. So I think that's stuff we have to think of, and maybe we could just kind of reconvene on the 20th for 15, 20 minutes, put some thought into it over the next couple of weeks, and get everybody's input, you know, on the 20th real quick, just so we can either say, yeah, let's set up a public forum and see what the community's feeling once we come up and say, yeah, these are the 4 we'd like to pursue. My thoughts.
So, so for that, so the 20th, we have the kindergarten committee, which I think the timing for that is really perfect. So what I was kind of thinking, and please, I mean, I feel like this is a discussion, so please, I want everyone to be able to to share their thoughts is, I really like, and I would echo Amanda, that I really like the way you took the 300-page document and distilled it into these priorities and the implications of each annual voting, and then the actual time frame for when it could be implemented. And I feel like it's very easy to read, it's easy to understand, it's very accessible. What do we think about actually just keeping right now at least the priorities as presented, so mechanical, phase 1, phase 2, district office, and then LHS as at least, I will say, like the default priorities, for lack of a better term, and then if after the kindergarten presentation we say, you know what, we actually really want to change it, then we would do so. But right now, does everyone kind of like the order? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, and I don't necessarily agree with the dates and that. I just kind of want to make sure we're focused on 5, and then as a board and community input, we can put that 5 in order, is what I'd like to do over the next, once we get some public input to what Sarah said. I think we'll get more detail. Dan will be able to get more detail if we need it to. But if those are the 5, I think we need to discuss it a little bit further, and then we need to kind of hone in on what's 1 through 5, and it all depends. Like I said, I would like to, if everybody comes back, say we discuss on and everybody's in favor to look at across the street, or if everybody says no, I don't want to go there, then it's done. Now we have to look at another way. We have to get those drawings we can file away in that and look at another process. So that would actually almost take that out of the equation. And then we're there for at least 5 more years. Because now we've got to look for property. That's going to take some time. And then we've got to go out and do pricing, and that's going to take a year or so. And it's going to change the whole schematic of district office. I would just assume, what's it going to cost if we did it next year? And what's the bond rate? Is it the same? Is it more? If it came in $1.5 million more, I'll be the first to tell you I'll scrap it. It's just not feasible. We'd have to wait and look for another avenue. But I can't make the decision on it not knowing what the cost is. We have some basic cost on phase 1, phase 2, and we'll have some cost in mechanical, so none of us can really make it. I guess we can make a difference if you think about it and everybody comes back and says, no, I don't want to do what we did last year. I don't want to look at it.
So I want to make sure I understand, you want costs associated with each?
Well, we know what they are, basically.
Right, okay,
And
so you're talking
then
ballpark.
we have ballparks. We know where the district office was last year. We don't know where it is, but what if we were to put that as number 2 to go this year, but then it went out to bid and it came in $1.5 million more? I'd be the first to tell you, no, we're not going to build it for $6.2 million.
So I think that's the only thing I'm feeling concerned about when you say out to bid is, I don't think we wouldn't be bidding anything.
No.
Okay.
Not at this time. I'm
Okay.
just knowing where we're at and what should move forward. This is a controlled cost, district office, because we're paying a lease. Don't forget, we got to look at that different. A building is going to cost us, there's no wash. We're not paying $225,000 in a lease somewhere that's going to go towards a mortgage. So that takes a little difference. You got to look at cost factors that now in bond rates with that, because that's a business deal, not an education deal. That's, do we do it now or do we not do it now, and we stay in our lease? As we know, we've got 5 more years. So in 3 more years, you're going to want to renegotiate. If we start this in 27 and it doesn't pass, we're re-signing for a new note. So I think if we're going to do district office and the board's in agreement, that moves up to as soon as possible because of cost of bonds and cost of building. So that's what I'm just throwing it out there, is how I look at things. Education-wise, I know phase 1 has to go before phase 2. I've said that right along, that's a priority. Depending on where we go with full-day kindergarten, and then of course the high school is definitely a necessity. But I think mechanical-wise, I think you're better off with a bond. This is my opinion. So it's spread out over years, and we're gonna have other things hitting our budget. So to put, say, $1 million on top of our budget, on top of maintenance trust fund plus all the other things, that's initial 1-year hit. That just ups our budget. This can be spread out if we do a bond for the mechanical. So that kind of eases, we can get more done, per se, and not, be loading up our budget in a one-time hit. So just stuff to think about.
A bond for mechanicals.
That's
I
all.
think, and I feel like we're.
I agree with that, but I would really like to see Moose Hill more at the top of priorities over the district office. I think we need to look at our students and what the needs are. Our little ones are struggling and squeezed into Moose Hill, and I think we need to look at that as a main priority coming up, both phases.
I would agree
Oh,
with
yeah.
you there. I'm very concerned about that, and I'm also concerned about if the state mandates that we have to have full-day kindergarten, which I wouldn't be surprised about.
And I would also agree that, so we probably would have mechanical first, and then Moose Hill, and then
Yep.
district office.
Yep.
Not that I disagree with your reasoning whatsoever on district office, it's just that our kids are squeezed in.
Oh, yeah.
So having them take priority over district office, to me, I think really makes a lot of sense. All right.
Are there things you might want more information on in the coming weeks? So again, I think Siemens will give us a pretty good read on our mechanical situation by the end of October. So hopefully by that November 1st meeting. We've had, again, we'll talk a lot about full-day kindergarten next time. I can tease out from the architects the phase 1 and phase 2 and how that can play out with a little bit more detail. Anything else in the district office that we want to find out?
I don't have any questions on district office right now.
Okay. If things come up, just reach out to us, and Lisa and Alan and I are fully engaged on this, and it dominates our thinking.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Does anyone else have questions about the facilities? Or okay, absolutely, just
Okay.
name.
Yeah,
address.
Tim Porter, 14 Quentin Drive. Just kind of a suggestion and more out of my curiosity. Next time when we talk about this further, you guys have mentioned it a couple times about the portables at Moose Hill and how the kids are squeezed in. Just go into more specifics next time as far as the details of that. Because all these things have to, as we saw with the district office in March, it's got to be sold to the public one way or the other. So go into specifics, explain exactly what the difference will be from going to portables to permanent and how much it'll benefit them. I think that would help everyone.
That's a
Great point.
good point. I was thinking too, when my kids started at Moose Hill, they had a library. And they used to go to library and they would bring their books home and they would have a special little bag. And now the library is in what used to be a staff room.
Mm-hmm.
So now the librarian has to bring library on a cart to the classes. So the teacher has to say, can you bring books on animals this week, or could you? And then she has to get those, and then.
Yeah, these are the specific things I'm saying. Like, most people don't know this stuff, and so to bring those specific examples up and say this is what they're going to benefit from in making this change to justify the expense, it'll only help.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
I think they're doing that now at Moose Hill.
That'll come out next week, more information too, right?
The portables in themselves are actually pretty spacious
Mm-hmm.
and good-sized rooms. It's more that kids are squeezed into spaces where they were never intended to be, like kitchens and conference rooms and staff rooms and things of that nature. So it's not necessarily that the kids in the portables are squeezed, it's that there's just not enough space for the number of adults and students in the building, I think.
Yeah. So next time, I already know what the presentation is, so we probably don't spend enough time talking about the state of Moose Hill, but we can come back after that. It's actually a really hard concept to talk about, and I think we try to do our best job on the tour. It's the proliferation and the specialization of all the programs in that building that are causing all the issues. So you have these, 1,200 square foot kindergarten rooms that have partitions everywhere that you're trying to squeeze a bunch of different programs into. Or you're squeezing a library into a staff room, or you're squeezing reading into a staff room. Those are the issues that keep coming up. That hopefully we can come back with some pictures and videos to explain that a little bit better.
Yeah, that came up a lot too, to Tim's point, in terms of like, if you have a special education program, those students need a distraction-reduced environment, so they're taking the space that would have been a normal classroom, and now you have 7 or 8 kids in there instead of 20.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point, that maybe if you don't live that life, that you wouldn't understand that, but that there can't be 20 kids with special education needs in a classroom because that would not meet anyone's needs that were in there.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions on facilities before we move on? Okay. All right, all right, well, thank you.
Can I just ask one more thing?
Absolutely.
So, Dan, I believe Trident said, talking with you, that they couldn't have anything ready because of putting everything together like you explained for this March.
Yeah.
But they could for next March. So if we were to get approval, we would have year 26 or 25 for completion of this. This is phase 1.
So, yep, that's a great question. So I'll go here. So let's say next March, we ask the voters to approve phase 1.
Yep.
If that did happen and they approved it, that means we'd be ready by the August of 2026. So again, that's a really long time from now.
Right.
And again, that's why we have to really start to think about the next 5 years now, so we're ready for them.
Yeah. And then the mechanicals, we know the timeline, as you said, are 26 to 40 weeks. So if we did do somewhat of a large bond to cover us for phase A, phase B, this March, 26 to 40 doesn't mean that it may not, we may be able to do sections as the material comes available, right, during vacation week. And that, switch out some boilers and that, so. And hopefully the chain will loosen up a little bit with what's happening in the industry. We're starting to see a significant slowdown, just so you're aware of it. That backlogs are now backing off, other than electrical. Switch gear and that, but everything else in the industry seems to be starting to come back to life here, per se, and lead times. With the interest rates and that climbing, so.
Yes, when I originally talked about it with Alan, he's like, yeah, if there were a couple projects, we couldn't do the whole district, but if there were a couple projects, you probably could get them done within a year. So if they were approved this March, they'd be ready by the following March. I mean, all Siemens did today was really caution us that with the supply chain issues, it'd probably take a little bit longer, and we should have more tempered expectations.
So when they bring that information back, do they have timelines on what they're proposing? Because they should be able to get that from their supplier.
We can definitely ask them for it. What we asked them for them now, was what are the priorities and how do you start figuring it out?
Yeah, and if they just ask timeline for these boilers or water pumps or HVAC, we'll have a better handle on what we need to do, or maybe we need to go a little further. If timelines, because if we wait another year, depending on what happens, we could be up against it. So that'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All set.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to our superintendent's report, starting with the communications update.
Okay, I'm here just to report out on some of the committee work that the communications group has done. I want to thank the committee. It's a very dynamic group. Communication is ever changing, so we're creating foundational work that we can build upon and be both proactive to get some good practices out there, and then reactive to use these practices when something unanticipated comes up. It's been wonderful. Everybody comes with a different lens in the committee, so something that we might not think about as a principal, a parent might bring up to us, or the district office. They were instrumental in being like, we're getting a lot of phone calls about the start and end time of the school day and when drop-off is. Can you guys create some documents? Lunch prices, all those things. So we had this new parent hub up and running. We were able to be very quickly creating things that could get answers to parents in a more efficient way. Tonight is also the first night that the new YouTube channel is broadcasting this meeting. So that website, media.londonderry.org, it's really important that you go subscribe to the new channels, to the district, to the schools, and they're going to archive some of the old videos that were there, but now it's separated a lot more user-friendly for people to find things that they're looking for. Both of the websites, the media and the parent hubs, are up and running. The flow charts, start times, lunch prices have been great. At our last committee meeting, somebody brought up we get a lot of flyers from different outside organizations like LAFA, Girl Scouts. Destination Imagination was the first one to come in. Is there a place that we can put that on the website? So today, this afternoon, we added a second page that says flyers for families. And we can just drop things in there so families can go to one spot to see things that they might be interested in. The staff spent a lot of time updating their websites. The buildings have looked at the district website pieces to remove old documents, to make things more active, and promoting the things that we have now. Some staff Instagram accounts are up. Dan Black, how many Instagram posts have you had now?
Whoops. Put me on. I have, okay, so you gotta tell me you're gonna put me on the spot.
Oh, sorry.
So
Communication gotta be quick.
I have had 23 posts.
23 posts, and he's had everything from my roof to South School's new signs to Alice training, trying to get those lens. So that's really what the Instagram is for, to get quick snippets of good things that are going on in each of the buildings. We're doing the same thing with Facebook. We're looking to have reciprocal information, so it's not a one-stop place where we would just post in Facebook, but it's a quick spot to repost things that are up there. And we've tried to make more proactive posts of the good things going on. So we started with the faces of the principals. That is our most popular post. We had 7,000 hits. Who knew we were that popular? Jason, I think it's because yours was the first one. It was very good. People were very excited about that. The Old Home Day Parade coverage had almost 6,000 hits. And then the opening days of school had almost 4. And that's the sort of stuff. We've always known we have great things going on in our building and we have answers to these questions. We just haven't always organized it in a way that everybody could freely find it. So that's really what our commitment has been. Our committee is going to keep meeting monthly. Our next meeting is the 19th of September at the district office from 3:30 to 4:30. And I can't stress enough that because communication is ever changing and dynamic, that we really are going to rely on a lot of feedback from the community, from our staff, students, for what their needs are. We're never going to reach a point where we're done. We're just going to keep adding to it and amending it and making it better so that we can get word out there for everything that we can. So if you have any sort of suggestions, feel free to reach out to me at asmalllondonderry.org, and I'm happy to pass it on to the group, and we'll just continue to keep things going. And that's my update. Anybody has any questions?
It's all good.
Okay, great.
Thank you. The enrollment report.
Just gave the school board a very quick enrollment report. It's tradition to always share how we opened up. So what you have is we have 4,149 students. That's our preliminary enrollment report. If you remember, on October 1st, we take our official enrollment and we kind of share that with the state, with the federal government. That's what we base our budgets on. So any movement in the next month, we'll kind of clean that up. So probably at the second October meeting, we'll delve into the official enrollment report. But I gave you the official October numbers for the last 4 years. So this year's enrollments, on the whole, very, very stable from the last 2 years. And I think what you'll see when we dig into the official enrollment report, there's big classes and small classes, and they kind of explain the ebbs and flows between the different buildings. And that's just kind of the way that the pattern's been for the last couple of years. But pretty stable, and we'll get into more detail in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no questions, just giving the school board a brief update for mentoring. I know it's something we talked about over the spring and the summer. So what I shared with you was the checklists that we shared with all of our mentors and mentees. And again, you saw prior versions of these. Now you see the whole year. And basically all we're trying to do is make sure our new staff have a veteran teacher they're partnered with, where they can go to, ask questions, problem solve around all these areas. So these are not the end of the conversations, they're the beginning. We've encouraged our veteran teachers to differentiate, personalize, and figure out what staff need help on. We kind of got it up and running over the last couple weeks. We have 41 mentor-mentee pairs. We did offer up the mentoring to any second and third year teachers that we thought would benefit. So we were glad the state gave us the funding for that from our Title II grant. and we're up and running. I know the school board in an earlier version asked us to share how the classroom management and culture is going. The school year is too soon. I wasn't going to stress out any of our teachers until the 3rd or 4th week of September to go visit their classrooms, but I think as the school year gets underway and we want to learn more about classroom management and culture, we can certainly come back because we're doing a lot of work with Polybath on that too. So stay tuned. It's just 4 days wasn't enough to draw any conclusions on culture and classroom management. I don't know if you had any other questions on our mentoring program that's just got up and running.
I just want to say, I think it's great how specific it is for the months, month to month, and I also have a question. How did you decide who would be the mentors again?
I have a wonderful leadership team who knows their teachers very well, and basically they talk to the veteran teachers in their building who are willing, but also would probably be good matches to each of the new teachers. Is that a good enough explanation?
Yeah, I find that so many teachers leave if they, not feeling supported or trained well. So I think this is huge for retaining teachers and making sure they're starting off on a good foot. And just like you said, I'm sure you guys know who can handle being a mentor and do it right, because there's a lot that will be willing to do it, but you want to make sure it's the right people. So thank you for finding the right people and starting them off with the mentees.
I love to see the classroom management in there. I hear you on when. I think that's important. I really think that can impact the entire culture of the building. And so I appreciate seeing that in there this time around.
Thank you, Dan, for putting this together with the leadership team. I think you'll find this is well needed and well asked for. Late last year would make life easier for a lot of these new teachers and welcome them to our team in our home a lot better and a lot simpler to know the buildings and staff and that. So this was one of those major things that a lot of teachers that we spoke with were requesting, and I think this will really help us move forward as well. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Towards the end of October, I'm going to try and get together digitally with some of our mentors and kind of see how things are going, see how we can make things better as the year goes along and actually heading into next year too.
Perfect.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right then. If there's no other discussion from the school board, I will accept a motion to move into non-public session requested under RSA 91A3, Section 2B and C.
So moved.
So moved by Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All of those. This is a roll call vote. Roll call vote. So we'll start with Bob.
Aye, Bob Slater.
Aye, Amy Finnemore.
Aye, Sarah Laughlin.
Aye, Amanda Butcher.
All right, so this motion passes 4-0. So we're now moving into non-public session.